This conference will now be recorded.
If there are no questions, then we'll start ahead with our training.
I don't have any questions today.
All right, great. So let's start with today's topic. So we are going to, let me close some of the windows which I have open. I was just working with a few of the sheets, so I'm closing that. Okay, so what we are going to discuss today. So we have already discussed the theoretical aspects of it in terms of storage. So S3 is primarily what we'll be discussing today. So S3, and we will check for buckets. We will go through the objects within buckets. We will also look for lifecycle and uploading and downloading objects, permission things, and few other things. Okay, so let's start with first thing first. So this is our S3. As we can see, this is a web interface which you can use, and you can go in S3 here, you can type in S3 here, and anyone, I think it's fine. So when we go to the S3, this is the console which we get, and you can see that it's web page. Now, first option, as you can see, we will have to create a bucket, which you can see. So I already have some of the buckets created. So there are a number of buckets which are available. Now, when you want to store your objects, first thing you do is create bucket, because bucket is your container where you place or upload your object. So you click on create bucket, and you have to name it. And as discussed yesterday, this has to be a unique name. So let's try giving it some name. I'll just say S3. Okay, and you can see that bucket name should be 3 and 63. Okay, so let me first make it S31. Oh, so fortunately, no one has used the name. Let me give something demo S3. Just seeing if someone has taken that name. Okay, that also name no one has taken. S3 demo. Let's try that. Okay, AWS S3 demo. All right, so no one has that name, but eventually if you give, so sometimes there will be a conflict, so it will complain you that that is not available. Okay, let me choose that. Yeah, for example, okay, so this is in uppercase, so this has to be lower one. Let me do that as well, and then we will check if that name is available. Okay, so there are quite a number of things which we don't have. Yeah, so anything, so anyways, so we don't have any conflicting names, we can use it. So I'm going to give it S3 demo, and then here we can choose the region. So we can specify what region I want it to be part of. So I can choose any one of the regions which I see from the list, although it's global, but while creating we have to choose one. Now we are working with S3 regions, so I'll be choosing S3 region, but you can specify any regions you want. Now at this place you have an option that you can copy settings from existing buckets. So I already have quite a number of buckets, and if I want, I can copy its own setting, but we are not going to do that because we are creating a new one and we'll be seeing everything from scratch. So I gave a name, I've chosen a region, and I'm not copying it from any other bucket. In case you're creating number of buckets after creation one and you want same settings, you can copy it so that you have same policy, same permissions, same everything. So we are just going to create buckets. I'll click on next. Okay, that's where it shows. So it shows bucket name already exists. So that's good. That's what I wanted to show. So let's change the name. So we have to find a unique name which no one has picked up earlier. See, this one also has been taken up. I can say S3 container. Let's see if someone has picked that up. That as well. I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4. Most probably that should not be there. Yeah. So because no one gives such an easier name. So that's what I gave. So it went to the next step because this is unique name which no one has created so far. So we were able to pick that up. We're going to next step. So my name is S3 container 1, 2, 3, 4 is what I've specified, and I'm in next step. Now in next step, I see that there are a number of options available. So let's go one by one. So first one is keep all versions of an object in the same bucket. So this is what we discussed. S3 provides you versioning. So if you're placing same object multiple times, it will be versioning it. And when you check that, it will be placing that in the same bucket. So you'll have two objects created with a different version. And then it also gives you server access logging. So you can log requests to access your bucket, and you can decide which bucket you want it to be accessing into. So I'll say this one. And then I don't have a target because I don't have any objects inside that. So I'm creating servers access logging for this one so that it keeps a track of which resource is trying to access it. Now there is tag. Tag is similar across all AWS resources. So whether it's for EC2, for your S3, for any of the resource you create. So it's more like you specify a name and then you give it a value. So you can say S3 bucket or anything. You can add another tag. You can say for what organization you're creating. So something which we have done for EC2 instances earlier, it's similar to that. So you can just specify your organization name, your organization unit name, for which resource within your company it should be charged to. You can specify all those details so that you know why this S3 was created and it was created for which team and which team should be responsible for this cost center. So detail like cost center, name, organization unit, you can specify those, which makes it easier for building within your organization. Okay, so that's something you can specify, and then you can also do object level logging. So that means bucket will be tracked through server access log, but it can also track your object level logging. That means what time your object is being accessed and by which resources, who is trying to access it. Now you can do that, but that's granular level of logging and it is being charged. So you have something called CloudTrail. So CloudTrail is something we'll be seeing during management tools. But yes, if you choose that, you can also track it. So what CloudTrail actually does, for now, I'm just telling you. So it does more like an auditing. Any account which tries to access your resource, you can grab it, keep a track of it. So someone is trying to access your object, you automatically get that registered in one of the tables, and you can see that who was trying to do that. So if you want that, you can also do object level logging. So within a bucket, it will be keeping track of each and every object which is being downloaded, uploaded, or checked out, accessed through this. So it gives you all the log level details. Okay, so that's object level logging, which you can use CloudTrail for that. But as it comes with additional pricing, we're not going to choose that, but we understand that we can do that as well. So we can track our objects access. Next is default encryption. So if you choose that, it will ask you whether you want to go for AES 256, which is server-side encryption, as we have discussed, or you can choose server-side encryption, which AWS provides. So if you choose the second one, that means you are actually using it from AWS and you'll be getting charged for it. So if you want to choose that, you can also choose that. So that means your data which you're storing in your S3, that is encrypted. And then additionally, you have something called CloudWatch. What CloudWatch does is it monitors your request to your bucket, but again, it comes for additional costs. So CloudWatch is a monitoring and logging tool, which can do certain tasks for free, basic ones. But yeah, if you want extended one, for example, in this case, it will be monitoring all your bucket access related details. So if you want CloudWatch to monitor it, you can check that, but then you'll have to create a CloudWatch and it will be charged. So we are ignoring this for now, but we know that we can certainly do that. So something which is going to cost us, we will be just learning them, but won't doing it. And we will be doing them during management. That's where it will become important, because until we do it, we won't get to know what exactly it does. So yeah, at that time, we'll be doing it for some time and it will be charging us less. But if we do everything now in terms of integration, then it will be charging us more for all these services. And we cannot keep a track of it, because once it is created, we may forget it later on. All right, so what we have done, so we have done the configuration settings. So first one, we assign name and region, then we have done configure options, we have configured most of the thing. Third one is set permissions. So that's where you decide within an AWS how many users account you have created. So the account which you have specified your credit card and you have got your account, that's your master account. So remember that for now, you have something called master account, and we'll be again discussing that during IAM. But the main account is your master account. Main account is called master account. And then you can create number of users, which is also called AWS account. So you can create numerous and you can provide it access. Now, so when you have number of users available, AWS accounts, you can decide whether you want to provide them access or not. Now we know that if you don't choose any one of them, by default your S3 will be private. So you see that do not grant public read access to this bucket. It says recommended because it creates it private. And again, it says manage system permission. So do not grant Amazon S3 log delivery group with access to this bucket. So mainly you don't want people to access it from outside or from any other account. If you keep it restricted, it will be restricted only to you. So you will be the only one who will be managing your bucket. And as and when you want, you can give access to the other users. So we are not going to do anything as of now, but we will later make it public. For now, we'll just see that once we create using default option, it will be created privately and you will be the owner for that. Now, when you want to create additional account, you can add account and you can add those users so that those users can also access it. But again, even after adding that, you can decide the level of access. Let's just go and see that. So I will have certainly few accounts. So if you want to add an account, in my case, I don't know, I think I should have, okay, I don't have it. Maybe I should have this one. Let me see if it comes. And I'll say just read. So mainly what I'm doing is I'm providing read access. Okay, so it has accepted it. So mainly I have added one account. So I'll be able to access it. And there is another account with Devin Pandey. I've created a user who will be able to access it. And these are the permissions which I have given. So you can see that users public permission is disabled and system permissions is disabled as well. And here I have just CloudWatch and CloudTrail is what I have disabled, rest all is enabled. And I can say create bucket. Now, so that is all at your bucket level. Now there is an error, it seems. Okay, so error setting properties and permissions. So mainly the account which I've chosen, maybe that doesn't exist, but your bucket is created. So let's go and see. So let's see if we can see that. No, we can't see that. So we'll be refreshing it. So let's refresh it and see whether we have them. So it should be visible once I do that. Yeah, so it shows 9 buckets. So definitely it should be there. It was 8 earlier. And yes, we can see it right here. So that was the bucket name which we created. S3 container 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see that it is not public because by default it should be private. And it shows current date. So we are good. Now our bucket is created. So we are good. So we can click on this bucket and we would see that there is nothing inside this bucket as of now. Why? Because we have just created a bucket with some set of permissions. Now I have to upload files. Now I can upload a small file. Anything, just about anything. For example, let me do. So this is one of the file which I can use. IPNB. Right. So I can upload it right here at this point, or I can also go to next. Now you can upload about anything. So I'm uploading one of these files. You can upload directories, you can upload zip files, you can upload videos, images, about anything, music files. So any files which you have, you can upload it to your S3. Let's go next. So I'm going to show you all of the options. If you simply upload, it will be uploading it by default options, but I am going to show you all the options. So I am uploading one of the object and then I will be setting its permissions as well. So first select file, whatever files you want to select. I've selected and then set permissions. So by default, owner already has permission. So I have read, write. Okay. And then if you want to add account, you can certainly add account here. So any account which you have, you can specify that, something which we have done earlier. And then this we will be learning once we use IAM security. And again, this will be, I'm keeping it private by default. So you can grant public access, read access, or you can, disable it. So we're disabling it for now and we can enable it later on. Let's go to next. Permission is done. Oh, okay. Did I select anything? Oh, okay, I added it, so I have to remove it because it was expecting me to save something. Now, this is something which we can see as a storage class. So something which we discussed during S3 slides. So we saw that there are different storage class available. So you have standard IA, one zone IA, and reduced redundancy. So you can see that now there is a change in interface. It was not this. Now recently it has been updated. So standard is something frequently accessed data, and this is the cheapest one. So, and by default, this was created earlier, but now there has been change. So you have to choose. Otherwise, it was always standard before. Now, standard IA, which is long-lived, but it is infrequently accessed, and that's what it says IA. Another one is one zone, which is again long-lived, infrequently accessed, and it is for non-critical data. So something which is like logs, zunk, and all those things. But you pay for per GB fees. So for both of these, and they have a storage duration of 30 days. So you have to see that whether it fits your bill. So this is what you want. And then you have reduced redundancy, which is for frequently accessed non-critical data, and you can deploy it in greater than 3 zones. So you can make it up to 4, 5, 6 zones. So we'll be going with standard because that's something with the lowest rates. Okay, and the next is encryption. This is something which we have discussed. You can use between S3 master key, AWS KMS master key, or you can keep it to none. If you're keeping it to none, it's good. You don't need anything additional. If you choose Amazon S3, then it will be using Amazon S3 default one, and this one is KMS, which is Key Management Service. So it will be generating a certificate for you, and you'll be using that. We can go with none as well because this is your private ones. But when the other accounts do access it, you can use Amazon S3 master key. Okay, and then this is nothing but header and tag, which you can specify. It's more like a metadata which you specify. So what does that mean? So you maybe you're placing a file and you want to specify what is the content type. So I can say content type is Python file. So I'm basically placing that one, right? So I can save that. And then next I can say maybe I wanted to add additional. So content language is Python. What else I can put about this file? So maybe something like, okay, so expires, I don't want to put in content language, so I'm good with it. So that's what I'm specifying. So using that, I'll know what kind of file it is. And then you can put in other details similar to what we have given earlier, key and value, where I can give name. I'll say Python ML file, right? So that's what I'm saving as a tag. And then I can see model, and I will say linear regression. So I've created this file for this purpose, so I know that what is the content of this file, what this model is actually doing. Right, so that details about files is I've put in, and I'll go for next. And this is my review page where it says what I've selected. So I've just included one file. I can upload multiple files as well. And then there is just one grantee, which is same as owner. Encryption, I have selected no for now. Storage class is standard. And these are the metadata, which I can see for S3, followed by the tag, which I've included 2 tags. And now I can do upload. If I want to change anything, I can go for previous and I can change as well, or I can edit it right from here for any changes if I want. But I'm good. I have reviewed all the information and it looks exactly what I want it to be. So upload it. And then it should be uploading it soon. Right, so that's being uploaded, and these are the details we can see. Name, last modified, size, and storage class. And this is also called metadata because this contains additional information. Apart from that, if I'll click on here, I'll be seeing other details as well. Yeah, right here. So it gives you all the details which you can see. So there is an overview which tells you all details which you have selected, and e tag, which you can see it is being generated automatically. So we didn't do anything. So e tag has been generated and other details are available. So it shows you the owner, last modified, and these are nothing but your metadata. Okay, and we also told that S3, whenever you place an object, it generates one of the links which you can share with others. So if I want, I can do this. So let me do that. So I can show you that I can actually access it. So I can directly click on this link as well. But instead of doing that, let me just copy. Okay, so let me show you both ways. So first, I can just click on link and it's gonna download it for me. Okay, so it's opening that file. It says access denied. Okay, so I have it access denied. Let me do that. Let me click on that. So maybe I have restricted it further. So what we need to do, we need to change it. its access, so that it should be accessible. Let's see what access we have given. So I'm going to select that. And let's see properties. What do I have? Storage class tags. I have metadata. Encryption I have not selected. I can also do encryption here. For now, let's do this so that I have everything in place. Okay, that's being done. And then let's check for permission. That's where I'm missing it. Right, so it should be accessible. I said write object and I should choose this. I have read write object, save. It should have that access. Let me do one thing. Let me connect to one of my machines and I can see that. File format CSV. So this is something you can select. So you can decide on format. It can be CSV, JSON, Parquet, or I can also decide on delimiter. Okay, all right. So let me go back here and I'll say download. Let's see that. So it's downloading. But I can also share this link with others. So I can download it because I have it here. But if I want to access it from here, so this is public URL, right? So when I'm on internet, that means a public URL and it must have access. So when I want, I can simply go here, I can download, it's easy. But if someone else want to access it, I need to make it public. For example, let's do a testing. So I'm going to give it to you for now. Or let me place one more file and then we can do the testing for that. So we'll go back to container and I'll place a small file, maybe, and this time I'll quickly upload. I'm not going to change anything. And let's see what I can place. Maybe I can do calendar.war. That's the smallest file I have. So that should be okay. Yeah, this one. So 8.8 KB, that's fine. It's a small file, it will be done fast. So I'm not going to change anything, I'll simply upload. So once I know how to upload, I know what permissions to change, I can simply upload and it is uploaded it successfully. Now let's check that. So this is the link. So if I click on that link, it's fine. It's gonna show that it's being access denied. So I cannot access it from here. And I can give you that link and I can show you that you won't have access to it. So I'm going to click it on chat window. Just try accessing it and let me know what you get. Just click on that link, which I've pinged on the chat window. What do you see on your screen? Can you click on, do you get anything when you click on it?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I think you were self-muted. So did you click on the link?
This link?
I have pinged one link on the chat window. So if you can try clicking on that and let me know what you get, what do you see?
Yeah, I get. It says it's an XML file does not appear to have any style information associated with it.
Right. So maybe you would be getting a page like this, right, where it says access denied.
Yes.
Okay. Let me do one thing. Okay. Now hit that URL again. What do you see now?
Should I save it?
Yes, you can save it, not a problem. You can save it or remove it, but I just wanted to make sure that you can actually access it.
Yeah.
Click on it. Yeah, so you can access it now?
Yeah. Yes.
All right, so that's what I want to show you. So you can actually keep it private, which is accessible to you. But in case you want to make others accessible, you can also share it with others. For example, maybe I wanted you to have this file, but I don't want you to access this file all the time. So what I can do, I can make it public. I can have you let it access it. Once you have downloaded, I can change it back. And then my access changes again. So it won't be public anymore. So this is something I can do using this. All right, so that's about sharing. In terms of sharing, you can keep it stored here. You can decide your permissions. You can share with other people when you if you wish to. So that's something you can keep in your S3 container. So it also acts more like you can also use it as SVN because it does that for you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it quickly. And then you have other options. So if you do right click, you will be getting those options. And even when you do right click, you will be getting it. So you can open it, you can get size, you can download it and save it. You can rename it as well. And you can delete it if you require, cut, copy, paste, or you can even change your storage class if you are required to do that. All right, so let me go and see. So what we had for this tool, so I have created a default. So you see that I did not do anything. I just uploaded for the second file, and by default, it has picked up standard because that's the default behavior. And then it has given it metadata, name value pair. One of the metadata it gives by default. There is no tags and no encryption because that's not a default behavior. In terms of permissions, you would see that it is given permissions only to the owner and nothing else because that's the default behavior. So you can either do it from here. You can say for everyone, let them read, or I can also remove read permissions. So even if I had given you access, if I remove these permissions, you won't be able to access it at all. So I can decide what level of access I can have. So what I've done again, so again, I have made it private. So if you click on that link again, you won't be seeing that anymore. So again, you'll be getting access denied. So I can control access and it's easier, just one click and you can do all these things. All right, so that's about placing objects, accessing objects, or providing access to others within your bucket. So you can create about any objects within your bucket. Now let's see a few other properties. So we have seen these already. So we have seen properties where, okay, so now we have seen it for objects so far, all the properties, and now we'll be discussing properties for our bucket. So object is something you can do at object level, which you have version. So here you can see that I have just one version. And if you want to place the same file, let me do one thing. Let me place a file again, same file. Let me upload the same file and let's see what happens. So I should be able to see the versioning, right? So let me delete these two first. And let me pick up my calendar. Right. So I'm again uploading it. Now what's happening? So it's uploaded. Do you see that? So there is nothing else here. It has uploaded and it says successful. That means it has been uploaded successfully. All right, so let's see. Now when I click on this, so remember I have uploaded two and I should see two here. So there is something called latest version, which is placed later on. So you can see the last version, which was placed on 9:55 is there. And I do have latest version as well. So it doesn't show me the objects, but at the same time, it shows me last modified date and it shows that I have number of versions. So even if by mistake you overwrite a file, it will create a versioning for you by default. So you're not losing your changes. So when you want to change it, you can get this file. When you want to go back to older file, you can go back to older file. And when you want, maybe if you have done it by mistake and both files are same, you can also delete them if you want it to be. So you can make use of versioning as well. So that's easier. So that is something being provided as a default behavior. Now, so it shows you one file because by default you have version hidden, right? It says hide. If you do show, it's going to show you both files. So you'll see that there is a latest version as well as there was a previous versions which was placed. So you can do that. And if you're not interested in that, you know that you can always access versioning information. You can just hide it to see that there is just one file. And whenever you want, you can choose one of the versions which you want to access. Okay, so that's about versions, and you can create folders inside your bucket, and then you can place your files inside folder as well. So you can place your directories, videos, music files, image files, like I said, anything you can think of, you can place everything in this file, S3 bucket. All right, so object was good. Now we are going into properties of bucket. So we have seen properties of objects. Now we are getting into properties of bucket itself, where we'll be coming across some of the new terminology. So now in bucket, we saw that there was something called name tagging, metadata, and you had encryption, all those things place. So few of the things will be matching here, but few are different. For example, encryption is available here as well. And this is a default behavior. So when we created bucket, you can see that versioning is being enabled by default. Why? Because that's a default behavior. So if you place something by mistake, versioning should be available. Now, if you don't want that to happen, you can also suspend versioning. But why to do that? If you disable or place a file by mistake, at least it's doing versioning for you, which you can always delete. So it is enabled by default, and server access is being enabled because that's what we did. So we allowed, while creation, we enabled versioning and we enabled logging as well. But any of these you can enable and disable on fly as well. All right, so this we are going to talk about it later on. But for now, let's just understand that we can use S3 for static website hosting as well. And this is what we have discussed earlier. So we can use S3 for running our website, which doesn't require any server to be run. And it's a good way to do that. And quite a number of clients, they run their website on S3. And even within a free tier, if you really would like to run, you can run your website for up to 1 year for free, because you're running it from S3. And with minimal resources, every month 5 GB is free, up to 5 GB is free. So if you're not going beyond that, you can run it for free. Again, you have object level logging, which I said it will be charging you extra. But if you want your object level access to be logged in, you can use CloudTrail, you can enable it. And a CloudTrail will be created for you, which comes with additional charges. Similarly, when you want to use encryption, you can also encrypt your objects within your S3 bucket. Okay, so we'll be coming back to this. So let's just keep it till here. Once we are done with other things, we'll be coming back to static website hosting as well. All right. And then next, what we have is permissions. So let's check for permission. So this permission is now for your bucket level. So we have already checked it for objects, where we just have access control list, while for the bucket, you have few others as well. Now, for your permissions, again, bucket is similar to what we have seen for your objects, except for one extra thing, which is SS3 log delivery group, and that is for the log delivery. If you want to check for list objects, write objects, read bucket permissions, write bucket permissions, if you want to provide those kind of log delivery, you can choose that. Apart from that, it's all same as your object. So default owner will be available by default. If you want to add additional accounts, you can click on add account and you can choose one of the other AWS account and you can provide them access. Now, this second one is public access, which we saw in case of object. So if I make it available for everyone, I have to decide what they can do. Now for object, it is different. It just says read and write. But in case of bucket, it says list object, write objects, read bucket permissions, and write bucket permissions. So you can decide what kind of access you want to give them. So maybe you just want them to list it, or more like see it. You can give them list. If you want them to have write access, write objects, so they will be able to view it, but at the same time, they can also place their files in folder. So you can give them write, but you're giving it to public. That means anyone can do it. So you need to make sure that you are sharing it with the right people. List is still okay. They can just see that. But if you have not enabled write, still they won't be able to write it. And then you can see read bucket permissions and write bucket permissions. Read bucket permissions is still fine because they can just see your permissions who can access it. But if you don't want them to see, you can of course disable it. But you should be very careful with write bucket permissions, because if you enable it for them, for those accounts, they can also change it. So you need to make sure that you are actually sharing with the right people who will be actually managing your resource. Yes, this is being of course used, but it should be a trustable guy, a trustable account who may be working for your organization, or who may be working for you. He'll be doing some of your stuff. So you can provide him access so that he can free to use this bucket, and he can do about uploading, removing, and everything he can do. All right, so I'm just not giving it public access right now, but you can give public access at object level or as well as your bucket level. So that's something you can do. But that is at access control list. That means you can decide based on users. So you can add users and you can decide its access or a between private or public access. Apart from that, in permissions, you also have something called bucket policies. And this is an interesting one. So this one is different than what we have in your bucket access control list. So access control list, mainly you decide for the user or the account on what they should have access. But in case of bucket policy, you actually define policies. So you decide this S3 can integrate with what other AWS resources. At the same time, what are the roles who can access it? What are the objects you can deny or allow permissions? Now, if it is something new to you, because you write JSON scripts here, actually, if you don't know how to do that, there is a good tool. So you have a documentation link, or you can use policy generator as well. So policy generator is more like an easy to use tool where you don't have to write code, but you can just perform the selection. So if you perform the selection, it will generate a code for you. But if you use documentation, you can also see the code, how to write it. So it will give you examples. For example, I want to check for bucket policy examples, right? I'll click on that, and then let's come and see that. So here you will have a template. For example, let's read that. So what it does, by default, it says version, and then there is a statement. It decides what should be the SID. Effect, you say allow. That means you are allowing that permission. And principal is nothing but your AWS resource. So what you're doing, you are providing IAM access. So root user, there is a root user with that ID, and then there is another user. So mainly these are the two resources which you are providing access to within an AWS. And what is the action they can get? So they can put object and put object ACL, which is access control list. So whoever will have access to this when you are applying this bucket policies, that means those users will have access to write. So they can place objects in that bucket, and they can also put object for permissions. So that means they can also change permissions. So that's the action you're defining. So they can do these two actions. Who can do that? So these are the two accounts which can do that. And then apart from that, you're saying resources. That means you are restricting it to this particular bucket. So under this bucket name is example bucket. Anything under this bucket, they can write inside it, and they can change permissions for it. So you're just defining it for it. That means that user will not have access to any other bucket. And this is what you are customizing. So this is a policy you're creating for a specific bucket. So you're allowing these two users to write permissions and write object, and only for this particular bucket, whose bucket name is example bucket. And then you are also specifying a condition which says strings equals to, if it string equals to this, then it should be public read. That's it. Then anyone from the internet should be able to read it. That's one. Similarly, you can find number of examples and you can place them. For example, let's see another one. So it says SID, it is given, it says affect allow, and it says principal star. That means it is for every user who is into your account. And action, you are saying get object. That means they can just read. So they can check the object, but again, only from this bucket. But you're allowing everyone. That's the only difference. So you don't have any accounts here, but any accounts which is part of your user. So that's how you can define your bucket. Now, policy generator, although we are going to cover in IAM, but I'll shortly show it to you. It is part of your policy generator as a part of your IAM. So how does it work? So you have to select first policy type, which we are choosing S3 bucket policy. And then we can say allow or deny. So deny means you want to change it. And this is where you have to specify what your principal should be. If you want for everyone, you'll just say star. Otherwise, you must be saying it for a particular resource account type. AWS service, you can see all service, or you can just see AWS S3, and you have to specify action. So everyone can access, no, so you're denying actually. So what we are doing, deny for everyone, and what we want to deny, for example, we don't want them to delete the bucket. We don't want them to delete policy bucket, object. So mainly I am just disabling everything in terms of deletion. So I don't want them to, delete anything. Maybe they can access it, they can write it, maybe they can place extra object. I'm okay with it, but I don't want them to delete anything, right? So I'm just concerned about deleting. So I've selected 7 actions, and then I can specify Amazon resource. Now ARN, how is it? It will be the format of something like this. And then bucket name is what we can specify. In our case, we have, I think, let's say S3 demo 1234 is what we specified. So yeah, something like that. So you can specify your bucket name, and then I'll say /star, which again means applicable for all objects. And I can say add statement. I can also add conditions. If I'll say add statement, that means this is my policy which I'm generating. So what I'm saying deny access to everyone. Effect is deny, so deny access to all accounts so that they can't delete anything. So what I'm doing, I'm not actually restricting them from accessing it or writing it or doing anything. I'm just saying any account within my master account cannot delete any of these things. So they cannot delete policy, they cannot delete bucket, they cannot delete bucket object, tagging, versioning information, any of those. And I've specified for which bucket I want to do it for this bucket. And then I have not mentioned any conditions. I can also mention conditions, but yeah, I have not done that. And once I click on generate policy, it will be generating that policy, and that policy will be applicable for that bucket. And I can just put it right here. I can copy paste it. For example, when I showed you, let's generate it for now. So this is how it is. So you don't even have to write it in case you don't know JSON. You can take it from here. You have generated the policy, and what you do, you paste it here. And once that's done, you save it, and then it becomes applicable for this S3 container. So okay, so it was S3 container actually, which I can again update. I didn't remember the name, so yeah, so that exactly you have set up a policy. So now you are the only one who can delete it, but apart from that, any other account cannot delete it. And this is how you specify. And once it is saved, you can enable it. So that's about your bucket policy. Then there is one more thing called CORS configuration, which is nothing but that's something you specify when it is accessed across different regions. Okay, so you can specify that configuration, which is like cross replication across regions is what you do. And again, if you really don't know what to do with that, you have a documentation available for that. That's the good thing about AWS. If you don't know how to work with it, you can make use of these resources, and you can specify. So you can specify the origin which you are using, what kind of method you want to allow, put, post, delete. So mainly what they can do with this object which you're doing. So you can specify that. So anyone sending a request from outside, they can make use of it. So you can do such things. All right. So that's about your properties. Sorry, the permissions. And then you have management. That's where you define your lifecycle management. Right now, what a lifecycle management is, like I said, lifecycle management is where you decide how long your objects will be valid within your bucket. So you do lifecycle management mainly for your objects within your bucket. So how to do that? So we have number of different options, as you can see. So you can create rules, you can perform replication, you can also check for analytics. Now analytics won't be available now because this is a new bucket created. Matrices also won't be available much, maybe default ones, and inventory as well. But yeah, lifecycle is something we can define. So let's look at lifecycle, and what we're going to do is, so we have two objects placed now, and we can create a lifecycle for it. So let's create a lifecycle. So mainly what I'm doing, I'm defining a rule for it. So we are in lifecycle tab, and right now there is no lifecycle. We can see that. So you can't delete it, you can't enable, you can't disable. So I can add first a rule. So for lifecycle, I have to add a rule. What is that rule? So what I'm going to say is one of the objects, maybe I will choose calendar.war, and I will say that it should expire maybe after a few days. So first I have to specify a name, which I can say S3 lifecycle event. Okay, so I'm defining an event for S3, and I can give it a tag if I need to. It's like prefix. This is useful when you're working with command line. So mainly you can filter it. So I'm going next. And then here I can decide you want to do it with current version or previous version. When you say current version, that means it will be taking of the latest one. When you say previous version, then it keeps the latest one and it only deals with the previous one. I'm going to choose previous one, or let's say I can choose both as well. So mainly I am dealing with all the files. So here I've chosen it that it should be applicable for both versions, current and previous, or alternatively you can choose what you wish to. Then next is I'll have to choose the transition for both, for the current and previous ones. So what I'm going to say, for current, what I want. So I'm saying, so there are three options which I get. Transition is to a standard IA, a transition is to one zone IA, or Amazon Glacier. Now I know Amazon Glacier is the best one here because that's the cheapest. So if I'm placing it here, it will be cheapest option, and I can store it as backup. And now what I said day after creation. So I've created today, maybe by tomorrow is what I want. And same rule for this one. So I'll choose Amazon Glacier. So mainly what I'm doing here is I am putting it to Amazon Glacier. Okay, so there is one flaw with the system. It's not allowing me to go further. So what I'm going to do is I'll not choose previous one for now. It's just not allowing me to select. So it should have gone bottom right there. But yeah, so but it's not doing that. All right, anyway, so but it says your object becomes a previous version. So I'll just remove this for now and I'll do it for current version, or I'll do it for previous one. Let's say we want to keep the current and we'll do it for previous, and I'm going to add a transition for it. And I'll say move it to Glacier after 1 day and next. So that means by tomorrow it should go. Now, so that's what I said in terms of lifecycle. And next is configuration expiration. So even for I need to decide on expiry. So what I want to do, so previous version again, because I've chosen previous version, it should be moving to Amazon S3 and permanently delete previous version. So the previous version which I'm moving to Glacier from S3, how long I want to keep it there. So maybe once I have moved it to Glacier, I already know I have a backup. So I can either say 1 or I can just say 2, because 1 by after 1 day it will be moving to Glacier. So I can keep it for 1 extra day, right? So I'm keeping for 2 days. That means once it moves to Glacier, it will be available even in Glacier as well as in your S3. And once I'm sure that it is moved to Glacier, I can delete. It will automatically get deleted from your S3. Okay, then clean up expire object. I can do it, or it can also clean up multi-part objects. So if it is done in multi-part, I can also do. If something is being done in multiple uploads and it's not properly done, it's incomplete, it can also remove that. Or I can just say clean up expired object, delete markers. And then I'll go for next. So mainly I have designed a life cycle here where I've specified 3 things. So I've specified the name and scope, which says it is for whole bucket. So this rule which I've created, it is applicable for the whole bucket. So any objects within that bucket. Then in transition, I'm saying only for the previous versions. So not for the latest one, let it be there. For the previous ones, I want to do this. And again, we can choose both previous and latest as well. And then I'm defining an expiry that delete it after 2 days. And then within 1 day, I want to move it to Glacier. So that life cycle is being defined, and let's save it. Now what happens? Now my AWS, this life cycle is enabled. So it will be keep on moving in. So for example, if you have done something by mistake and your objects are going to Glacier, which it shouldn't, then you want to disable it, you can also disable it. So you can just disable it for that timing. So although this rule will still be there, but it will just get disabled, right? So it is just getting disabled, and you can enable it again when you wish to, right? And then that's fine. So you can do that. All right, so that's being done. Next is, let's see in terms of replication. So you can create rules here. Now replication is something you want to make use of cross-region replication. What does that mean? That means right now, I know that this is in my S3. This S3 is in my Virginia region, right? So it is in Virginia where I have created it. But if I want to cross replicate across other, I want to provide it high availability. So in some case, this S3 is not available, although that doesn't happen. But yeah, these are technologies and it can happen anytime. So I need to make sure that my customers are never affected. I want to keep a replication. So I want to choose 2 regions. So if one is Virginia, maybe I want to keep it in Europe or APAC or UK or Singapore, one of these regions. So I can certainly do that. So whatever object I have placed in this region, I can replicate it using adding another rule. So I can add a rule and I can decide what I want to do. So I can say for the entire bucket, I can choose the whole bucket, or I can do it for objects. So when I do it for objects, I will have to specify prefix or tag. And prefix is nothing but the object name which is starting with. So you can make use of star and other things. but you'll have to use it. And then maybe you want to replicate object using AWS KMS. I said this is chargeable, but if you want to put encryption, you can do that if you're more concerned about your security. And so I'm saying entire bucket, so I don't need to use prefix, but even after saying entire bucket, you can also make these prefix. All right, and then I say select bucket. So which bucket I'm going to select? So bucket in this account and buckets in another account. So if you are a master user, it will give you this option. I want to work with same, so I will choose this. Oh, okay. So now you have to select another bucket in another region. So this one which I have chosen, that is in Virginia, and now it is giving me options. So I already have one of the S3 bucket in Oregon region, Oregon. Now, in case I want to create new bucket, I can also do that. I'll say from that bucket move to this bucket. So I can do that. I already have one, so I can choose that. Okay, so it says versioning is not enabled. That's fine. I don't want versioning, but that if I want, I can just simply click on that, and we can see that it will just enable it. And then and the reason it was saying that because I have two objects in this bucket which is not replicated. Then I can say change the storage class for replicated bucket and change the ownership to destination bucket owner. So I can change the storage class or I can change the owner as well. And then I'll go next and I can specify a role. So I have number of roles available. So I have to choose some role which is related to your S3. So you can create a new role or you can create it for S3, and definitely there should be something for the S3. Let me see. Yeah, I have a read only, so I can choose that. And then I have not created a rule. If I've created a rule, I can specify that rule, and that's about it. So status enable or disable, and then you create it. So I'll just say rule name. So what I've created, I'm creating it for application. So I'll say S3 and Virginia to, if I'm saying Oregon, right? So that's what I'm saying, specifying to understand, and then you create on next. And this is review page where you create that rule. So once this rule is created, this will be replicated to another region. That means it will be available in Virginia as well as it will be available in other region as well. So you are making it highly available. So I'm not creating it, I just canceled it, but that's what you can do it. Next is your analytics. So this is nothing but based on your S3 buckets, which you placed objects inside it, you would be able to see storage class analytics. So it gives you a graph interface, which you can see. So you would be able to get those analytics diagram right here if you want to see it. Similar thing, matrices, it will be showing you matrices about this object. Now this object is recently created, so won't be finding much, but that's how it usually shows in terms of requests, storage. Maybe I can pick another one, which is older one, where I may have accessed objects a couple of times, so it may be showing you few things at least. So let me pick this one, and we can check on permissions management, and then maybe let's go on to analytics. So yeah, so this object I have accessed quite number of times. So it's showing you a graphical, interface. It has the analytics available. Now for the new bucket, definitely it won't be. So it gives you in terms of storage, in terms of data, what is the total size, data retrieved, it says 0 byte, so I've not used it. And it has collected analytics till 31.8. So analyze my data, and it is giving me all the details about, let's see, up to 10 GB is what I have, and what percent of storage did I retrieve. So it is like very minimal. Somewhere here I used it for retrieving, and then nothing apart from that. And then S3 objects less than 15 days old, it shows me 1.40 GB. So I have placed something for 1.40 within last 15 days, and then it shows 15 to 29 days, maybe 1.49 GBs, and 30 to 44, maybe 1.20 GB. So mainly it gives you analytics, and it also shows you in terms of your usage. So maybe initially there were no users, so I have not used earlier, but later on I was placing files and you will be able to track it. So this gives you analytics. But again, your S3 object should be older, and this shows you matrices, which is similar to, it shows default. So there is not much change. It uses standard storage. And then you can see number of objects. That's also not so frequently no frequent change, because I'm not using it every day. So it's static. And you can check for request maybe. So if it has anything in terms of requests, so I don't have any. Data transfer, there may be something. No, so even that has been not done. So mainly I have not enabled it, so it's not there. All right, and similar thing is you will have few things. Okay, inventory, because I've not enabled any inventory here, so it's not here. So if I want to create it, I can create based on output format, and I can decide what are the fields I want it to be, and this. So if I save it, it will be generating an inventory for those objects. So that's how you maintain your buckets and your objects. Now, one piece is what I have left, and I would like to cover that as well. So we have covered quite a number of things within your S3, and S3 is which you can integrate with number of things. So we saw that we can integrate it with CloudWatch. We haven't done it, but yes, we have seen it. So which can be done. So also CloudTrail. Later, I will also show that, once we have done, we can integrate it with later when we'll do it. We can do it with CloudWatch. Sorry, CloudWatch is already done. CloudFront, Route 53 we can use, and then quite a number of others. So mainly we can do it for anyone. We can generate events. We can do it with Lambda, EC2. So quite a number of others you can integrate. So mainly most of the AWS resources integration is quite possible. Okay. Now there is one more thing which I should tell you, that you can use S3 to host your website, right? Let's see that how you do that. Okay, so this is one of my bucket. It's a simple bucket which I've created, right? Let's go to that bucket. So first I would be creating a bucket. Now you have to remember that your bucket, the way you create it, for example, running.com, and then you place these objects. So mainly you will be creating object which runs your website, so which is all the details about your website. So what I've done, I have created a bucket with running.com name, and then I placed the CSS inside it. I have fonts, images, JS script, and index.html. Now whenever a website is run, it will be running as this. So let's click on this one. And do you see that I can actually run my website using this? I am not using server. There is no server behind it, no EC2 running. I'm not making use of Elastic Beanstalk. I'm not making use of Docker containers or anything. So mainly there is no server or container in place. Now what I have a template which I have deployed onto top of the S3. So right now it just shows S3 and it shows the whole URL, but I can further change it to one of the website's name. So I can integrate it with CloudFront, or I can integrate it with Route 53, which is DNS name service, which will give me a more website name. And instead of, let's say, S3, I can run it as running.com, and then it will be hitting index.html, and I'll be getting that page. So it will be mainly showing me one of the websites. Let me check for other one if I have any other. So it's easier way to do that. Now, how do we do it? So what you actually need, if you really want to test it, you just need a template for one of the websites, which you can download even from the internet. Let me see if I have any other. So I have one for pizza. Okay, but I don't have anything inside it. So do I have something? Yes, I don't have anything. I see that. Let me delete it. So I'm showing you. So these are one of the archive objects which we're taking. So I'm going to delete it. And I'll say delete, because it's utilizing quite a number of resources. So I want to delete it. I'm not making use of it. So I can also delete number of these items. Although it is standard, but you see that it is using bytes and KB. So and it's running every time. So it's going to consume a lot of memory. Although I'm not being charged much, so maybe monthly just $1. So it's not a big, and you see that it's just consuming 148 KB altogether from that period of time. But this is something I can delete. All right, so I'm just deleting it, and you can see that it's getting deleted. I'll delete one more time, and then we'll go back. It's a bit slow though. It shouldn't be that much slow, but yeah, it's behaving a bit slow. All right, let's go back. Let's not wait on this. I have one more. Let's see if this is the same, and I can hit this URL. Let's go and hit it. So this is a public one, right? Because I made it public and I can hit that URL from there. So I can click in right here, or I can just copy it to the new window and I can put it. It's not able to load this page, otherwise it should be bringing a website. It's a cool website which once gets loaded up, it shows you the pages and everything. But yeah, it takes time to load sometimes. But anyway, so this is hitting index.html, which has connections to all other files, and it is actually loading it. But we can actually run it. And how do you run it? So for running it, what you do, so you create a bucket. So for example, this is my bucket, running.com, which I've created. And what you do, so we will have to say enable website hosting. So let me click on that bucket and go inside. So there are two things. When you click on here, it will just open the properties of that bucket. Okay. And you have ARN is Amazon resource name. If you copy that, what you get is actually resource name. And this is something which you use when you want to work with JSON scripts, or you want to work with YAML scripts, or if you want to create any AWS CLI, you can make use of it. Now, when you want to go inside buckets, you have to click on link. So you have to click it as link. If you click here, you just get the properties. When this underline is enabled, you can use it. And then that's when you come inside this folder. Okay, it's still loading in, so let's leave that. It's not in mood today. But yeah, so these files, it should have all the required files which can actually run your website. Now let's go and see what we have changed so that it is running as a website. So there is one flag which you have to enable. So you have taken a template, you have placed in your S3. What you have to change, you have to make it enabled for static hosting. And how do you do that? You have to say bucket hosting. So we will click here, and simply what you do is you say that this will be endpoint anyway, this will be available, and then you will, okay, this is what I have to copy. Actually, I have copied on the index.html. I have to use endpoint, and let's hit that. So that again should be loading the page. Let me see, it should be, yeah. So that's how you get it. So this is a website which I have hosted on AWS 3, and that should be the endpoint which will be taking. And what you have to specify, index document. That means the first page it will be hitting. Now, in case you have some error.html, include that. In case you are going to hit one of, for example, I'm going to go here and I'm going to click on one of these, and I don't have that page, right? So I can click on that, and for that, if I don't have a page, I can just say get me error.html. So you can do that. But so this is just more like a demo which I have placed to show that. So it's running on top of S3, and I am running this website actually on top of S3. So you don't need anything else. Just get your templates, make everything get worked, and because these are all static contents which I have, and your website can run for free if you want it to run. So you don't have to worry about server configuration, nothing. Just create your website, put it on S3, and S3 will take care of everything for you. What you specify is these things. So you say use this bucket to host a website, so you enable it. Then you say index.html is what you have to specify. This is also optional. If you don't want, you can just ignore it, but it's better you always use error.html. If you want redirection, you can also use it. Why do you need redirection? Maybe someone is hitting HTTP, you want them to redirect to HTTPS, you can do that. So mainly you can say HTTPS or HTTP, what you want them to do. So you can specify that, and you can mention that. Otherwise, just this, and you specify your these things. When you say disable website hosting, then that means it won't be running website anymore. So if you want to run your website on S3, you have to say use this bucket to host a website, specify your first document, which is index.html, save it, and you're all set. That's how you run your static website. And it's quite elegant website based on what you design, you can actually run it. So that covers our topic for today. S3, which we have done literally quite a bit. Now, so this topic is done. We will, and EFS, I think we did cover yesterday. We'll be seeing briefly about Glacier, and then we'll move into database tomorrow. So Glacier, we don't have much because we don't use Glacier actively. It is used more like archive. So we have seen in Lifecycle Glacier, but if you're really interested in putting something in Glacier, I will be showing that to you tomorrow. All right. So we'll wrap it up here till today. We have covered S3, and then tomorrow we'll be taking up Glacier briefly, and followed by we'll be starting with database. So we'll be starting with RDS tomorrow.
Oh, okay. All right.
So any questions from S3?
No, it's a lot of information. I have to go through it to happen. I don't want to. I was just trying to, understand the general concept, but I have to go through everything before I start asking questions.
All right, no issues. So yeah, it's one of the really good tool, really cool tool in terms of S3, and it provides you numerous features. So you can it can be used for ingestion of big data as well. You can use it for website hosting. You can use it for storing, and you can also use it for video streaming. So Netflix, like I gave an example of use case of Netflix, they are using it for video streaming. All their website is running on top of that. So yeah, it's really good thing if you really want to make use of it, and it's cheap. So that's the best part.
Okay.
All right. So we'll wrap it up here, and then we'll connect again tomorrow, and we'll be discussing on Glacier as well as on database tomorrow.
All right.
All right.
All right.
So thank you for joining. Hope you enjoyed the session. We'll connect again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Sure.
Have a good one.
All right.